Hello?
Can you hear me well?
Yep.
Great.
I can hear for sure. Just gonna turn you up because I want to make sure that the volume is good for YouTube.
Alright.
Alright.
Do you have a delay on the stream or not? 'Cause then I can
It should be like standard
turn
delay
down
of
the
like
volume.
a few seconds. It should be like anywhere from 2 to 5 seconds or something.
Alright.
Alright, back by popular demand, we have a Kanna. No. We kind of have a Kanna, but we kind of don't. So Reddit. But basically, you remain in Kanna, but you want to be the big dig DPS.
Yeah, so I started as a Kanna because I read everywhere that a Kanna is needed in Reboot.
Mm-hmm.
So I just thought, let's just start with a Kanna, and I actually enjoyed it in the beginning. So I got a little further than just being a farmer, I guess.
Mm-hmm. But they became even stronger with the rework, though. Or did you always play them the way they are now?
Yeah, I always play the way they are now.
Okay.
I played them like over 5 years ago when Reboot wasn't even out yet.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was only a spawn helper, I guess.
Yeah, mainly spawn booster. So you're trying to switch to a strength class?
Yeah, I'm debating between a hero and a demon slayer at the moment.
Yeah, they're both pretty solid.
So I want to try out the hero with the burning coming up this summer, and preparing before that time. So just farming before it and getting my legion up, I think.
Yep. And the DS, it's easier to train outside of.
Yeah, and I already have it level 210 now, so.
Alright. Yeah, that link skill is very useful.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. So it's more a general account thing then? Is more the question then?
Also, yeah, do you think it's also viable to go with a Kanna like bossing? Because it's mainly used as a support class, right? But can you also use it as a DPS class?
So that depends on what bosses. Since you're at 10 mil range, let me go through the equips real quick. But wait, what level are you?
I'm 239 now.
239, okay. That's a lot of rings.
I know, right? I started off with the Blackgate rings for Mesa Obtained and Drop. And now with all the events that were there lately, I got all the event rings as well.
Well, those are going to be for drop rate and Mesoptane anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't invest in it then, because I don't think your kill speed will go up. You'll just be spending a lot of money.
Alright.
I mean, yeah, your range will be higher, but I don't think your kill speed will match how much money you'll have to spend on getting all of them up to legendary and getting the lines again. Okay, let's see.
So you went to bed early yesterday?
Yeah, I did. Had a normal time. I already went to the store today.
Alright.
Already did some stuff. Okay. Yeah, so there's definitely a bunch of bosses you should be able to solo with the Kanna. Have you tried soloing some bosses?
I got to the point that I can do CRA now solo. I've never tried Lotus and Damien solo, but I don't think I can do that yet.
What about Hard
Go
Magnus?
with a part. Hard Magnus, yeah, I can do Hard Magnus, yeah.
And Kyosaku?
Yeah, Chaos Second as well.
Okay, so Lotus, You could always find someone to duo Lotus and Damien. It shouldn't be hard at all, and they'll make it quite a bit faster as well. But I think you can definitely get to the point of. I think if you rearrange some stuff, I think you can definitely get to the point of soloing Lotus and Damien. Won't be super duper fast because, like you said, you're still primarily support class. With switching some stuff around, I'm very confident that you can do it. But then you can still, you could still be like, well, I can't do it, but it takes too long, so I'll just duo with someone instead. And then you can at least have that as like weekly income. Or what you could also do with the Kanna, which is probably a smarter idea, is to find some higher level strong people and join them as a well, I guess you wouldn't really need it, but you could join them as a Kanna for like hard Damien, for example, where the rest do all the damage and you just do the setup and the supporting. And then maybe in exchange they'll let you you can be like, well, maybe you can join on your other character with another hard Damien party, for example, that you exchange it,
Alright.
I don't know if you have if you have like a guild or connections there that can help you out.
Yeah, I'm in a guild, but it's not very active at the moment, so I don't think that's the best option.
Okay.
Maybe I should just join another guild instead. And what would you rearrange to be able to solo Lotus and Damien?
Well, I'm going through everything now.
Alright. Because I can't do what's it called? With the new Galax and stuff, I can only do hard Galax.
Okay, Helix isn't...
Not Helix, no. Well, I've tried it once or twice, and it didn't go that well.
Yeah, it can be tricky new with the hand and everything. The main thing that's really annoying for Kanna is that your main damage comes from that big blue ball. And if you're sending off to the sides to dodge the attacks, then the ball will trigger at a annoying time, and then you won't be able to...
Yeah, don't hit it.
Yeah, and then if you hit the portal, use the portals, then the portals can glitch, and then that fucks your run. Yeah. So that is rather annoying.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so the question is, do you want to so you could get to soloing those bosses, or do you want to just keep the way it is and just find a duo partner and duo them every week to get the crystal money, and then focus purely all of your money and all of your attention on the new characters? Those are going to be two options.
I think I would like to prefer the first one, so doing it solo. At least being able to do it solo. So then I would have like 2 characters that would be able to solo these bosses at least.
Okay. 6. Dude, so many rings, holy shit.
Sorry for including all.
No, that's good. It's kind of the more info, the better. Double drop on the superior earrings. Nice. Now you need another one, though.
Yep.
That's the downside of getting quote-unquote lucky with the...
Yeah, and also the 6% all stat is also nice to have just as an extra. Right?
Yeah. Until you find that second one, that's definitely good.
Yeah.
Belt, int, MP.
So from the point, like the bonking event, that's the point that I started working on my Legion primarily, and I didn't really do much other than weekly bosses on my Kanna for the past month, I would say. So all of my income primarily comes from Maple Tour, Arceus daily.
Yep, just like me.
Also spent all of my Legion coins for the 2x coupons for my Muse.
I see. Yeah, that can drain you as well.
Yeah. I wasn't even able to get the 6k Legion upgrade yet because my coins are always gone.
Oh, the 5.5 is the big one, and then 8k. So yeah. I mean, yeah. Once you get enough, you'll be able to rearrange a bunch of stuff. Yeah, so critical rate is a thing for Kanna.
Yeah, and it's also for the Muse, leveling the Muse. So I can use this one.
So
the
currently
bottom-
you have no problem with what was I gonna say? Oh, with critical rate on the Kanna, or like how high is it?
Um, well, it's fine for the bosses I just mentioned, but I think it's like 83%, I guess.
Yeah, it says you're 82.
But I was just wondering, like, because all of the summons don't count for the critical rate, right?
Mm-hmm. Some of them
It's
crit,
just the
yeah.
basic Shikigami damage then.
I think. Does Yosuzumi not crit?
Could be, not sure.
The little things flying around, and the spirit circle crits, and domain crits, I think, doesn't it?
Okay. So
I
should work
guess.
it up to 100, yeah.
Yeah, well, the thing is with that's with the current buff as well, right, from the event.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So it should be lower. But the link skills I have on my Kanna now are not, like, I don't have the Phantom link skill on it, because it's on my Mew.
Okay.
So that should also, because my Phantom is level 210.
So that's 20, and okay, and you could get the Beast Tamer to level 3 as well for an extra 7. That's 4 now, I think, or Jesus, those numbers.
7 at level 2, I think, and 10 at level 2.
Oh, maybe it's 4, 7, 10, yeah.
Or is that the boss damage? No,
I think it's the same. Let's see. Yeah, 4, 7, 10 for both, yeah. And then 3, 4, 5 for HP and MP, which is also nice, of course, because the HP scales a little bit.
Yeah. Especially for Kannas.
Yep.
Adds up to the damage.
For sure. Okay.
So on the bottom from all these print screens, I have like a list from Excel with all the levels from my Muse and the ones I'm planning to work on, I guess. Like, yeah, the bottom one.
Yeah.
So this was basically to keep an eye on the Star Force on my Muse. Now it's 151 at least, right?
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I mean, it's more than what I have on a lot of mine. I haven't invested that much there.
Yeah, so it says Demon Slayer 206, and that's 210 now.
Okay, that one leveled. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Where's the Where's where the Night Lord and the Marksman are at?
Yeah, over there on that.
Marksman 140.
They're both at 140, I think. I kept them over there because I thought it. Well, those two are not the easiest one to train, I think. Oh, I didn't enjoy them at least.
Night Lord is decent, but a little bit squishy. Marksman is, Marksman is its own thing.
So I was thinking maybe if there comes another bonking event or something, I would make use of that for those two classes. I'm not sure with which leveling things will come with the Rise update.
Leveling with Rise update. I think there's like clumps of storm growths that we get again, similar to this event, but not like a huge bonk or something like that. I don't think there's any like that announced in KMS at the moment, but maybe this summer for KMS, maybe for our winter update. But yeah, but that only would be like 2 extra. That would only be like 2 extra crit rate, right? Because it goes from. Yeah, it goes from 3 to 4 on both of those. So that would only be 2%, so that's not that big of a deal anyway. Okay. If you go full crit rate, get your 6k, you could get 40% here, so that would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 extra. Master 20, 16. The Focus Spirit is also not on your Kanna right now?
That's a beast tamer one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's not on the Kanna right now. No.
Okay. So if backtrack. Well, if you put the Focus Spirit, if you put the Phantom Link, if you put full grid and critical rate, and you put decent sharp eyes, that's already 90% combined. So then you should have 100% at least, definitely, right? With your base critical rate and with the Night Lord and the Marksman. And then from there you can remove some points from your Legion as you have critical rate in your hyperstat. The one thing though that's missing a lot of damage for you is that you have no points in critical damage in your hyperstats. And that your boss damage is low. You're missing out on a lot of damage there. And the one thing, one of the reasons why is because you need so many points in IED and you still only have 79%. So that's the main problem is for Kanna, is like everything is really good on Kanna. The one thing that's kind of bad is critical rate and is IED. So it's all about trying to find a way to match the Tetris pieces and match the puzzle together so that your basis of your critical rate and your IED is set so that you can apply as much crit damage as possible. And then range so that all of your range and your damage goes through, because as your IED is low, your damage doesn't really come through. If you over focus on the damage and under focus on the IED. So if you want to get to soloing with this boss, what you will need, because you have you have the superior set bonus, right? Yeah. Well, not in this picture because I think you have a reinforced ring here, but. What is the superior ring again? Is it 2-line intellect?
It's 15% now because I recubed it, but didn't go that well.
I see. Well, it's mainly for the set bonus, right? That's important.
Yeah.
So with the set bonus for superior, what is your ID at right now?
Let me check that real quick.
Because I think that's with a.
It is at 85%.
And it is with a 20% line of Might of the Honorary Hero right now as well.
Yeah.
So you will you'll definitely need to use your IED in your Legion. And you will need at least one line of IED on your emblem. Basically, if you wanna go to soloing.
Alright.
Which is kind of painful because your emblem is kind of nice.
Yeah, it's 21% magic attack now.
Yeah, with some damage too.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of talked about the second option of just finding someone to duel with, because that second person doesn't even have to be super duper strong, as long as they're at least 230 and they know the mechanics. You'll be able to duo. But yeah, if you really want to get to soloing, the first thing I would do is to definitely upgrade the Legion and then rearrange the points there.
And also get the Lumi link to level 3 then? Because that's level 2.
Yeah, that's on the list as well for you to do already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's going to be better than adding 5% because you're adding 5% to an existing... wait, is it existing 10 or existing 15? Hang on, how does it work again? It's 10, 15, 20, right?
Yeah, I think it's 10, 15, 20, yeah. So it's 15 now.
Damn, all of these numbers. Yeah, so you're adding 5 to a 15, which is way better than adding 5 to nothing because of how that works. Well, yeah, we didn't really go over the basics, but you've got most of the basics of the game down, right? Because I looked at your numbers. It seems like you understand most of it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I'm lacking now, but I'm not sure about it, is the flames.
Yesterday I redid the flames information. I don't know if you've looked at it since.
No, I haven't.
Basically combined all of the links that were in !flames into the one document. And attempting to explain everything on flames in like 1,5 A4'tje. And yeah, I think it's way more concise now. We could look at it real quick. And then I have it like set out specifically for Kannas, and simplified it a little bit, and then just gave a few exceptions, and then like that's it. But yeah, we can go over this real quick. So the flame score is what I don't know. I don't want to say that I made it, that I came up with it. I think it already kind of existed as a concept. But the point of the flame score is to say like how much main stat is this flame worth, basically.
Right.
And then depending, you can't just have one number, because there's a bunch of things that give you damage, and because your sources of damage change all the time, right? So you have a general way that you upgrade your gear in Star Force, in Potential, and in Flames as well. And when you take all that into account, different things will weigh differently when you're at different stages of the game. And what I mean by that is when you're at the point where you're typically around the point where you're like 2-line potential, like 2-line main stat on everything. Flame scores are around probably 70 to 80, well, probably 80 to like 90 on, or like 80 at least on like Flame Advantage gear, probably around 20 to 25 or something on non-Flame Advantage gear. You have probably 17-star Absolab. So all of that included, and including the base kits of classes, that typically gives you a general distribution of your stats that we can take into account. And then when you go into the end game, you're typically like 20-star or higher. Your flame scores are typically higher. Your items are typically like 2.5, like 24, 27, 30, or 33%. So that kind of changes the distribution of how much stat you have to how much weapon and magic attack you have, because of how much you gain when you Star Force and how much you gain when you increase your potential. So the real exact numbers, if you ever want to know the real exact numbers, you have to throw everything into a big calculator, and then it'll just tell you how much is worth what. But because that only gives you the situation at that moment, and then if you're trying to flame and be future-proof, because those numbers are going to change, it's better to know what they're going to change to and take that into account, that rather than take your personal situation right now into account. So typically, I don't advise to use one of those big calculators and throw everything in until you get to like level 250, and maybe you're going to be settled there for a while. Maybe you're not going to be leveling as much anymore, and you're just trying to settle into your gear that you're going to hold for a long time. And then I would probably look at a calculator, and then if you're going to push it to 275, then look when you're completely done, and then throw everything into a calculator, and then min-max all of your things, because it's a combination of your hyperstats, your link skills, your matrix, your legion, everything has to work together to try to optimize, and it's too much. It's too many numbers for your brain to like just say like, oh, I obviously have to do this, right? Like it's not that obvious. There's just too much stuff. So a calculator can really help you out there. But as you're still fluctuating and still moving and leveling all the time and leveling skills and redistributing points and still getting a decent amount of hyperstat points as well, that's going to change so much that I don't think a huge calculator. I think a huge calculator is actually more work than it helps you. So that's why the flame score came in. So then you can look at, okay, this flame, given that I'm going toward, like I'm in the late game or I'm going towards the end game, and I want to make sure that the flame will be good when I get there. That's how you can like calculate the flame score. You can compare the flame score of your character, of your items with other items that are within the same level bracket. Because if you look at the total, if you look at the possible outcomes for flames, you will. Oh, that's not the one. You will see that the numbers go up as the. So even if you have the same quality tier of the flame, the numbers will go up as the equip goes higher level. So the higher the level of the equip goes, the higher the expected value of the flame becomes. So you can't really compare if you have a level 120 item, say in an item slot, and that's the best one you can get, taking everything into account. You're not going to expect the same flame score of that as of a level 200 arcane item that you also have, because that would be unrealistic. Because the same quality of flame will have a higher score there. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I break that down a little bit more for Kanna specifically. So if your equips are under level 120, and like around 69 is like where you want to be at for flame advantage items. Between level 120 and 150, around 80, and then 160 plus around 90. So I think this is roughly where you're at. I'm pretty sure. And then these are like the exceptions. So Demon Avenger has to look at HP more. Kanna has the HP and MP amounts that are mentioned here. And then Dual
So
Blader.
it's 70 HP is like one stat. Is that correct?
Yeah, roughly. That's taken into account average percentage HP and the translation from HP to magic attack with your beginner skill.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and here is like the level requirement mentioned as well. That will make it go better. Yeah, and then the other exception is that Shadowers, Dual Blades, and Cadenas scale off of 2 secondary stats, and therefore percentage all stat is really good for them. In the end game, it goes even up to 10 or maybe even above that flame score. So for those classes, rolling into percentage all stat is really good because they scale with you and actually get stronger. So
Okay.
that's really nice.
Nice.
So does all that make more sense?
Yeah. So if we would calculate like the flame score on my items right now,
Yeah.
how much would we end up with?
Well, you would know now, right? See, so main stat is 1. So we'll look at late game category for you. So main stat's 1. Secondary stat is 1 to 8. Weapon magic. So magic attack for you would be around 4. All stat around 8.5. HP MP 70 would count as 1 on the flames itself. So pop quiz time. All right. So what are these gloves? Boom. Wow, you have immediately you have 4 sources. So you have 25.
Great start. So let's start with the
Yeah.
20.
So what is that? 25 plus 4
27.
plus 4.5.
27 for the MP, I think.
You did that quickly. 27. Let's see. 20 is 1400, and then 420. 6, right? I think my brain says 26. 1400 and 420 divided by 17 is 20 and 6, I think.
Let's go with 26. It's just 1 point.
And then, yeah, hey, gotta be correct. And then 51 for the all stats. So that's a total
so
of
77
110?
plus 20. So how much does the lock count for? Does it also add for Kannas? I think so, right?
Yep. Yeah, so 8 to 1. So 8 luck counts for 1 intellect. So that's 36 is 4.5. Oh yeah, 4.5. So that's 106.5.
107. Yeah, 106, 107.
Yeah, so then you can look at this one. Oh, so this one is for specifically for Kannas, more for like farmers on what they need to aim for, basically. So and this one, the progression. This is like this has the numbers here. Yeah, so you're like right here. You're like right at the high end for late game. So the glove is like exactly where it needs to be. However, the one thing for the glove though is that you can get a lot of damage out of your glove with critical damage.
On the potential lines, you mean?
Yeah, that gives you way more damage output than intellect does. It makes your range go down, but it makes your damage output go up. Again, provided though that you have that critical rate base so that it can always trigger, right?
Yeah.
There is one downside there though, like you said, is that the summons don't do critical damage. So ideally people go for 1 line of crit damage with a line of intellect, but I'm pretty sure you don't really have problems killing monsters around your level, right, with how good your range is?
No, I don't have any problems with it.
So it would be better to... so as one of the steps in the process would be to roll this to critical damage plus 1 line of intellect. That would be one thing for the list. But yeah, flame, nothing needs to change there, and Star Force definitely nothing needs to change there. Look at your backups. Oh, you kept all the medals? Man, I threw those away as soon as I got the 7-day
The
Master
most
Parker.
Spark medals you need.
Yeah. They look kind of nice though.
Just for my collection, right?
Yeah. I see
Takes
you.
up a lot of space though.
If I see your etc., I see you're also a collector.
Yeah, all the U Garden stuff is also there still.
Yeah. Okay, so we can do some for shoes. So shoes, 2,470 bucks is 15. So it's like 25, 51. So it's like 70, 76 or something. So flame-wise, there's definitely something to gain there.
Yeah.
But again, it'll depend on how good everything else is, on whether or not it's worth to throw something at that. 15 at 5.
So just start working on the worst one first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like you have the Excel sheet, you just do like flame score of your gear, and then you can easily see which one is the lowest. And then typically what I do is I save up all my flames until the oldest ones that I have start like flashing and they might start expiring. And then I take all my flames and then I just try to flame for something better. And if I'm
from the weekly bosses, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. From the dailies and weeklies, it's just everything together from all the characters. And then if I'm close to the end of my flames and I have a flame that's okay, maybe it's not better than what I started with, but it's not too bad, then I just hold on to that, because the last flames you have will still have like 5 or 6 days on it. And then 5 or 6 days when those starts flashing, then you use all the flames again that you have at that point, and then just that way just gradually get stronger without actively dumping money into it by buying flames, because I don't think that's necessary. I think they're not that
flames
bad.
Are a money drain.
Yeah, for sure. And definitely look out for those singular flames that you get from events and stuff, because they will screw you over. Yeah. They're a trap. They're like, oh, there's a chance of improving, and then, well, there's a 98% chance of ruining your item. So, and then they suck you in to spend more money.
Yeah, because you have to get it up again to the point that it was before. Yeah.
Well, you don't have to, right? But psychologically, you have to.
Yeah.
Everyone tells their brain, like, well, I can't do a downgrade. Like, that's impossible. Even though nothing
Just
actively
like
really changes. Yeah, it's like
gambling in a casino and losing money. You want to make it back.
Yeah, exactly. That's why when you go into a casino, you just set a certain amount of money you're willing to spend, and you spend that much, and once you're spent, you're done. Like, that's the only way to gamble. If you don't do it that way, it's gonna
fun as well.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the only way you can keep it fun, because after a while you start getting personally invested, and then there's no fun anymore. There's only, and that's when people start getting kicked out. So the flames on the CRA stuff can be a bit lower than Abzo, right, because they're lower level. But Abzo is also but CRA is also really good for flames. So like your hat flame, for example, can be a lot better. Because this is like 50, I don't know, like 54 or something, 53. That can easily be like 80 to 85. So that's like easy 30 plus stat that you could gain there. So just through this process, I wouldn't be surprised if the hat was like one of the... Yeah, because the top is like 82... this counts almost for 30? Damn. No, 10... 20. Yeah, for like 30. Jesus, yeah. So so the top is like really good, right? Because it's a lot of HP, and that multiplies quite a bit. But then compared to the hat is like missing a lot of potential there. Absolute Summoner. So it's your main weapon. Yeah, I understand the potential that you keep that. I'm pretty sure the flame is on the low side on this one as well, though. 54. You know about flames on weapons? Because those work a bit differently.
Yeah, well, no, I don't really know how to calculate those, because I thought damage lines are not the best one you could get, right?
They're not the best, but they help. So the main thing you're looking for, especially if you're trying to do like the solo the bosses, is percentage boss. Because boss doubles with the tier. So like tier 2 is 4% boss and tier 5 is 10% boss. Whereas damage percentage is just tier 1 is 1%, tier 2 is 2%, and so on and so forth. So with the same rarity of tier comes twice the damage percentage return on boss damage compared to regular damage. And since when you're attacking bosses, your damage and your boss damage get thrown into one pile anyway, boss damage is more efficient there to get as a flame line on your weapon. So that's why you'll hear a lot of people saying like, don't go for damage, but try to aim for boss damage.
Okay.
And as for magic attack, so magic attack is really wonky. I can't just say go for 40 magic attack because the numbers go by a percentage of the base stat of the weapon. So it's completely different for every weapon. So that's why if you look at the progression milestones, weapon has its own line here. So it says to go for tier 5 plus, which means tier 5 magic attack. And something else, so something like damage, boss damage, all stat, maybe a bunch of stat, HP, MP, anything that gives you damage on top of a tier 5, or for a tier 6. And since you're like in the second half, you probably want to aim for tier 6 with something a little bit useful. So to know how much a tier 6 is, you have to look at the base magic attack of the fan, which is 241. So I kind of round that up to 250 because that's like a quarter of 1,000, so that's a little bit easier in the brain to calculate. And it's not a normal weapon, it's a boss weapon, flame advantage weapon, of 160. So you have right now 54 out of 240, so that's more than a quarter. So that's probably 30%, right? It's probably tier 5. 30%.
Tier 6 then, right? Like 40%?
Oh wait,
oh,
20%.
you mean the stat that is on it right now?
A fifth? Oh no, shit. It might actually be less. It might be the tier 4. 22%? Wait, 22% is 24 plus 24 is 48 plus...
Yeah, I think it's 22% then.
Yeah, that's 22%, yeah. So that's a tier 4. So you'd be looking for tier 6, which is almost double. Which is probably going to be like 90
100,
90 plus 40% is 1 quarter, so that's like so that's 40%, that's 4/10, so that's 2.24 times 4.
It's a little below 100.
It's like 96 or something, yeah. So that's like 42 magic attack to gain there. And you don't have any intellect or luck or HP or MP, and only the 6% damage. So this is definitely a reflame too. So out of everything that you're going to be reflaming, this is the first thing you reflame, right? Because like we looked at the flame scores, 1 magic attack is almost like 4 stat. So if for the other items you're trying to gain even 40 stat, that's only 10 magic attack worth. But getting a tier 6 flame on this is 40 magic attack. So this is 4 times as important only by re-rolling the magic attack already.
Alright.
So that's how you look at like what the difference is between the expected value on the flames. If you could hit a boss damage line, like even if it's like tier 3 boss damage and a tier 6 magic attack or something, that would be so much better than what you have right now.
Okay, which is great to know,
yeah. And you need, since you need a level of IED somewhere, you definitely need one line of IED, right? Preferably a 40% line, because bigger chunks of IED is better. And since your emblem has what it has, I almost feel like it's smarter to recube your weapon than your emblem.
Okay.
Because you don't have a prime line. Because you don't have a prime line magic attack there. So if you could hit magic attack with 2 lines of attack, or magic attack, IED, and then maybe also because you can still have a boss line damage as well to redeem your damage, so you have more outs.
Yeah, so it would also be good if it's 1 line IED, 1 line boss damage, 1 line.
When I attack, for example, yeah, or even if a line of intellect goes in there, all of those outcomes will be beneficial for you just in your overall output, because you desperately need the IED, and your emblem is already 2 lines of magic attack and a line of damage. So like the amount of gains you can do there comparatively is much lower. So if you're going to recube anything to try to get that IED where you need to be, I would definitely do your main weapon. That is going to sound like everything needs to be redone on the weapon, but that will also mean that once you do that, you'll be in a much better position. So I will mainly so both with this and with like leveling your legion and resetting your legion and everything and redoing your hyper stats, I would always do like one thing at a time and then see how far you get and then see to which extent do you have to compensate with other means, right? Because you're not trying to commit, you're not trying to overcommit to this character because you want to keep as much money available for your other character domain.
Yeah.
So you want to do as little as possible while giving you enough breathing room to be able to know, like, okay, now I can definitely kill the boss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed,
Yeah.
And going with the Haku fan, is that fine as it is right now? Because I don't really know what's counted in for that.
Yeah, so the potential counts magic attack and intellect, so that's like perfect the way it is now. I mean, perfect would be another line of magic attack on the third line, but let's not get too crazy. And then it looks at, so I don't know what is the 204 plus 163. What is the flame on the fan?
See real quick.
163, because I can. It seems like it's decent. Is it like plus 56 or something? I don't know. I'm just doing some.
Yeah, the flame is 66. Yeah.
66.
The base damage is
so
204. The flame 66, and the Star Force is 97, which is not included, I think.
Yeah, so 66. So that's slightly less than a third. So that's the tier. Yeah, so you have a tier 6 magic attack. So yeah, so Haku does two things. So well, Haku does a lot of things, OP things. But so when the Haku fan, so as for potential, magic attack and intellect percentage counts. And then what Haku also does is when you summon him, he gives you a magic attack buff. And that buff gets bigger depending on... Basically, he transfers a percentage of your total magic attack on your fan to a magic attack buff on you. So more magic attack on a fan means bigger magic attack buff for you. So both Star Force and potential... Star Force and Flame, matter. So if you have a tier 6 Flame and you're looking purely at the magic attack, and you have at least 17 stars, then you're doing everything you need to. Kind of sucks that you have the 6% the tier 6 boss damage on there. That'd be... I bet that this was a really good main weapon though.
Yeah, it was my main weapon before I went for the app. So yeah, I actually want the flame on this one on my main.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, tier 6 magic attack and tier 6 boss damage would be perfect for your main weapon. Yeah.
And also some int as well, 20 and luck 44.
Everything happened. But even despite that, Abzo is still an upgrade, right? Even that it's not nearly as...
On the Haku, you mean? Or...
Well, on your main weapon, right? Just because the base magic attack is so much higher.
Yeah, definitely.
But once you can get that flame in order, and then redo... So what might happen is that your total damage range might go down after we fix everything. But what's just important...
It looks like I'm worse off.
Yeah, but you definitely won't be, because what's going to happen is your ID is going to be a lot higher, your critical rate is going to be higher, and your critical damage is going to be higher, which is going to increase your total damage output by a lot. And your boss damage is probably also going to be higher. So after that, you're going to be doing more damage, but your range won't reflect that. So that's always counterintuitive, and that's why I'm trying to kind of push forward push forward this movement that people stop looking at range, because Haku is just range is
just bullshit actually.
yeah.
Okay. So what would be the first thing you would focus on after all the equips? So like account based progression. The pink holy cup is also not great, I think, right? Flame.
Didn't it have like 6% all stat and a little bit of intellect, right?
Yeah, 20.
Yeah, so that's also not the best, but like the weapon is super priority. Getting a good one on the weapon is more important than anything. But yeah, like I said, like, so of the current gear you have, make the list and calculate the flame score.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you have that done, you'll very clearly be able to see like where are the biggest gains to be made. So it's possible that the cup and I think your hat, and then maybe your Absolab shoe are probably among the items that can definitely get an upgrade. But yeah, your weapon is like way above all of those things. And then once you have all of those things done, like those 4 or something, you could start working on like like the non-flame advantage items, like the superior stuff and everything, and the Golek stuff. But honestly, I don't think you need to get to that point. I think you can just leave those where they are, because I think you'll be strong enough and dealing enough damage, and then you can leave that money for your other characters instead. Because like I said, we're all about doing the right things, investing the money in the right places, and doing as little as possible so that you can be enabled to do your bosses.
Small gains cost the
Yeah.
most in the end. I think.
Yeah, just the most financially efficient ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
For your Legion, do you have 2 different setups, or do you move the pieces around?
I do, yeah, but the other setup is just to max out the coins I gain daily. So there's all my highest levels on the board, basically.
Okay.
That makes sense. It's like only a 2 million damage boost.
Yeah, if it's only 2 million.
Rate power.
So I think there's, yes. So for Legion, save up now for the 6K. I know that the extra 1 character isn't a huge motivator, but getting your full grid so you can do your final setup, that'll be more efficient. So for 2 setups, I would make 1 setup for the Kanna and 1 setup for... So 1 setup for intellect characters and 1 setup for non-intellect characters. So in 1 setup, favor all of your intellect member bonus characters, because there's a lot of those, and favor those and try to get all of those in. And in the other one, focus on strength and then dex secondary. And then, well, first the important ones, like critical damage, right? And critical rate, and so then dex and strength. Yeah, exactly. Shade, yeah. And then get all your warriors in there for extra strength, and then the extra archers for dex, and maybe like Xenon that has a little bit of dex. And have those 2 different setups. And then for 1, you could just put magic attack and stat in the middle. And then for the other one, you can put intellect and magic attack in the middle. But so you can switch between those 2 whenever you're leveling different characters. So that on your Kanna, you want to take... well, the main focus is going to be critical rate to get that to 100%. Like take as much as you need to get that to 100%, which right now will probably be very little. Because of the temporary event, and focus on critical damage and ignore defense. But again, the critical damage is the main focus, but only after your critical rate is already 100%. That's very important. And then the IED and the critical damage will be very big there. And then if you have left over, you go into boss damage.
Yeah.
In that order. And then in the other one, you can do a combination of... You probably need critical rate, right, for new characters, especially if it's a hero. Not if it's a Demon Slayer, though. If you go Demon Slayer, you can basically just skip all critical rate, because they have, like, I think 3 of their main attacks, like, all have 100% critical rate built in. So that's a big luxury there that you don't have to worry about, both in your hyper stats and in your Legion. And then you can go full critical damage and boss damage, and maybe then some IED to help you early on before you have all those set bonuses that you do have. That you already have on your Kanna, I mean. Or bonus experience while you're still leveling, so that'll be like an option. And those will be the 2 presets that I would make for Legion. That'll help you out a lot. And yeah, don't worry about the 2 mil raid power. Like that'll take care of itself with Yeah. But yeah, your Legion is already pretty impressive, so you can definitely squeeze out some more power there with that. But once you... So first get the enough coins to make the upgrade to 6K, so you have the full grid at your disposal, and you can kind of place everything where they will be for a long time. Because the only thing that will really change is getting characters from 140 to 200, because even 200 to 210, the Legion piece is not going to change shape. And yeah. What happens a lot is, I think it happened to you as well, is that while you're building your Legion, like, oh, you're leveling 1, and oh, it gets a little bit bigger, and you just kind of slide things around. But after a while, it gets a little bit messy, and there's like a little bit...
like it is right now.
Yeah, like the overall goal of the Legion gets a little bit lost because of that. But then and then it's like, oh, the grid gets a little bit bigger, but like now what do I do? Like you have these mages with like one thing sticking out, and it's
Yeah.
So every now and then, it's good to just take everything off the board and just start completely fresh, and then But then it's good to have in mind. So yeah, one purely for the intellect ones and all of the good basic solid ones, of course, and then the other one for strength and dex based characters. If you know you're definitely gonna playing a warrior, and then switch between those two. Yeah.
Okay. And looking at the characters I'm leveling
Mm-hmm.
on the bottom, am I missing any important link skills?
Apparently, eventually you want all of them, right? Um,
So I'm trying to level Beast Tamer, Luminous. What's the other one?
was this your Angelic
I
Buster?
think they're in the bottom. Yeah, the
Yeah.
other print screen below this one. Yeah.
Yes, the Mihal is mainly just useful for the Kanna itself, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not for the other two. Hero and Demon Slayer both have full basic stance, and both have the chance of knockdown stance as well. Hero with 2 skills and Demon Slayer with 1 skill, as far as I'm aware.
Are those passive skills or?
No, so there's an impenetrable skin, which is a 5th job warrior skill that all the warriors can use. That basically makes you immune to knockdown for not super long, but for a decent duration. And also per hit you take, you increase your damage by a certain percentage up to a certain max during the duration. So basically, the more you get hit and the more you're standing on top of things, you won't get knocked away, and you will deal more and more damage. So for something like HMAG, that's perfect. You just pop that. And Hero has 2 skills that empower your basic attack to the empowered mode. You've probably seen it, right? Like the regular is a little bit small, and then you have like an empowered stronger mode. So you have that in your own kit when you switch from single target to multi-target. But you can also have there's 2 other skills that give you the same benefit, but don't switch to single target, but they stay multi-target, and then you can stack it with the single target on a boss to get like even stronger effect. So one of those is Burning Soul Blade, and that one is like the extra sword that follows you around that you can put somewhere as well, and it does extra damage. And the other one is your hyper skill called Cry Valhalla. That one lasts a little bit shorter, also empowers your skill, but that one also gives you the knockdown resistance and I think also critical rate and damage or something. So that's also something that you typically use to, not get knocked around in will, or not get knocked back while you're doing the final burst in HMAG, for example. So between Cry Valhalla and Impenetrable Skin, Hero has that in the kit. And you have your iframe, of course, in 5th job that you can basically spam all the time. That can also, if timed correctly, will also help you from being knocked back. And DS also has two iframes that can help you with that. Yeah, so Angelic Buster would be nice because if they're both pretty bursty. Although DS has a lot of setup for burst, and I don't know if throwing the Angelic Buster skill in there will help. Won't just like add on to all of the stuff you already have to push. But for Hero, it's definitely very useful because you don't have an insane amount of setup for your burst. It's very simple compared to a lot of characters, so throwing in the Angelic Buster link will actually help a lot there. And the Beast Tamer link will definitely help your Hero out quite a bit. Not so much the Slayer, but definitely the Hero. And the Lumi will be good for everyone. IED is always nice, especially now that the Codex buff is gone. Hopefully the Familiars will come back, of course, though. So, but even when Familiars come back, and even if you get some IED through Familiars, you'll, as a Kanna, you'll still want a line of IED somewhere.
Alright. Sounds great.
But other classes like DS and like Hero probably won't. But then you have to use your Legion to compensate for the IED.
So I would actually have to, like, the characters I have to get to 200. They're also the mages for the extra int for the Kanna.
Yeah, but again, I wonder how much you will need that.
Yeah, so maybe that's a next step from 7 to 8k or something. Not the first priority.
Yeah, not the first priority, no. Eventually you do. But if you're trying to shift mains and you're trying to have your Kanna, I think you can get to the point with your Kanna by like redoing your weapon, redoing all of the critical damage and IED and how that's all placed, and redoing your Legion. and then getting your glove, the critical damage plus plus magic attack, and then working on some of the other flames. I'm fairly confident that as long as you practice the bosses a bit, you will be able to do Lotus and Damien solo. It might take a little bit, but you will be able to do it. And then getting the intellect once to 140 from 140 to 200. That'll just make it a little bit easier later, but it'll mainly just be to make the final sprint from like 7.5 to 8k Legion, yeah.
Yeah.
And before that, I would focus on the other ones, just so you can get a little bit more of a head start on the next character that you're going to be working on. Yeah, so things like Paladin.
Just leveling those mages is a pain in the ass.
Some of them are more annoying than others, yeah. Actually, I thought Fire Poison, for example, was going to be really bad, but it actually felt really strong. And as you make your different Legion setups, like one for intellect, one for non-intellect, and dedicating that like Legion setup for the mage when you're training it will make a huge difference as well.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. They will do more damage, so leveling will be faster as well.
Yep. Okay, well, and then it's all about like, meso prep and nodestone prep, right? I think you've stopped leveling your skills for a reason, that you're saving up your nodes for another character, I'm thinking?
Yeah, also that, but also I wasn't playing on the Kanna as much, so I didn't really gain a lot of nodestones other than my characters that went from 200 to 210.
Did you buy the... Sorry, I cut you off. What did you say?
So I have like 100 nodes spare now.
Okay.
And how many do you need to get all of the important skills maxed on a new character?
The important skills maxed? Probably 2,000? Maybe a little bit less. Like, a hero doesn't have many boost nodes, and you basically, once you max Burning Soul Blade and 2 boost nodes, you're pretty much done. So you could probably do that between 1,000 and 1,500, probably. But as if you have more boost nodes to do and more skills that are very important, you easily can dump like 2,000. And if you want to max everything, it's like 3,500 or something. It's kind of nutty with how many skills we have at this point. But that's really if you want to max like everything, including all of your decent skills and stuff. And you have access to everything, and you're like level 255, 260. So that's like a very scary number. But like 1,000, 1,500 is probably what you need to get like your base things maxed. Did you buy your experience nodestones already on the Kanna this event?
No, I didn't. No.
Okay.
I would
definitely.
5, right? Or
Yeah.
3? Yeah.
5 per character. Yeah. I would definitely get those and try to level up your domain. That's gonna help you get a lot of extra final damage as well. To do the big bursts, because you are quite burst heavy with Kanna because of domain and because of your goddess blessing. That gives you a lot of final damage. So that combination with all the other stuff that we talked about is going to help you do a lot of damage in your bursts. Charm. Is that a Ninetale, or am I seeing things?
Which one are we looking at? The top one?
Yeah, the level 14, the top skill?
Yeah, it's a Ninetale Fury.
I see. Because you have 5 boost nodes in. Are you missing out on anything that can give you damage? I don't know if you have spare boost nodes lying around.
Not really, no.
That you haven't like.
Well,
okay.
A couple. No.
So ideally, you want to max all your important skills in 4 boost nodes, and then you would have 1 extra slot available right now, where you could put something like Sengoku Force.
I'm missing Doppelganger. I think that's why I have the spare ones. I'm missing Doppelganger and Vanquish's Charm. Maybe it's not that important.
Well, you have the so you have the boss. Yeah, so the old guides still call for Vanquisher Charm. Vanquisher Charm isn't that much, like a boosted Vanquisher Charm isn't that bad. But generally it's only used to just charge your domain faster.
Yeah, so then the main thing I'm missing is Shikigami Doppelganger, I think.
Well, that one is purely used for people who boss, and not at all for people who mob.
I have it on 1 node, so it's like level 16 now.
You have 2 Yosuzumes, 2 Tengus, 2 boss, 2 Shikigami, 2 hunter, 2 Kishin. Yeah. Yeah, it's probably not worth it. Like if you're trying to min max and you're trying to like end game stuff, then you might want to rearrange the boost nodes a bit so that you get an extra slot available, so you can use something like Sengoku Force. Have you used Sengoku Force before? It like summons the random soldiers.
Check.
The Sengoku skill. I think it has like a purpled hair girl character on the icon. But basically, it summons some
Oh yeah, I have it here. Yeah,
random warriors.
How many do I have? 2, 4, 6. I have 9 of them.
Yeah. So they just do damage randomly around the map. They just get summoned for a while. But one of them can give you a critical damage buff as well if you hit that one. That increases your burst by a bit as well. But I'm thinking with your setup, so probably when you're bossing, I would remove that level 14 one you have with Charm and Doppelganger and Ninetail, and replace that one with Sengoku Force when you're bossing.
Right.
That would also help you out. Wait, you don't have the Spirit Circle in. That's the one I'm missing.
That's right, yeah.
The big blue ball.
That's an important one for bossing.
Yeah, because
Liberated spirit.
Yeah, liberated spirit. Because when you're bursting and you're like right on top of them with all the bursts, you know, it's not as much for every, like for Vellum it's really important, right? Because he's very tall, so the ball just goes through him the whole time and does crazy damage. But for example, for Lotus Phase 1, right, the hitbox is pretty high up as well, so the ball helps a lot there. For Damien, like if Damien goes up in the air and you can summon it below him while he's in the air and you can't do anything, the ball can still fly through him and do a bunch of damage. But it's definitely big bursts. So if you're in domain and you have Princess Akuno's Blessing and then you have the Liberated Spirit Circle flying through him, that does a lot of damage. Yeah.
Okay. So I should put that one in as well. And which one would you replace it on? So which one should I?
You're 239, right? So if you level, you get an extra slot, or you can buy the next one. Might be pretty cheap if you're already 239.
85 million.
Yeah, that's not that. Are you close to leveling?
No, I'm 0.82%.
Well, there is a Typhoon growth potion coming in Rise.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah.
So that would be
like, yeah, well, because 240 is the max, right? So 39. Yeah.
You get you would get the last level for free, and then you can just equip it or spend the money with it, whichever you want to do. But I think somewhere this week we should get the preview to how the event is going to roll out, how many events it's going to be, and when they're going to do it. So hopefully that'll give you a little bit more insight there.
Yeah. Okay, great. And what are the best link skills I should use?
Yeah, I was just using as link skills because the picture you show is
it's for the mule, training the mules, basically. Yeah.
Oh, it's mule training. Let's see. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Except for the thieves cunning, there is probably what I wouldn't put there for a mule, but all the rest I would put in there. Yeah. When you're bossing, so all the crit rate you need to get to 100. And then the solid damage one, so you have Soulless, Wild Rage, you have your own Elementalism, so that's why it's there, and then Judgment, right? And Judgment only works because you have that 100% crit rate.
That's the crit damage boost of 4%, right?
Yeah, the Kinesis link, yeah. And then Light Wash, of course, very important.
That's the Lumi?
Yes, Light Wash Lumi, yeah, sorry. Yeah. And then if you need, so this is the point where you have to see, I don't think you'll need Bravado from Hoyoung. I don't think you'll need that link because it's a 10% singular line, and it doesn't do anything besides that. And once you moved around your Legion and hopefully put a big chunk of ID in Legion and got at least one line of ID on your weapon, that should be enough, because you also have some hidden IDs, right? But at that point you'd have to calculate your functional ID. Do you know how to do that?
No, I've heard you said it in other gear preferred. progression videos, but I'm not really sure.
So if you check !ID, there's a calculator link there. And this is where you can put all your sources in. So you can put in things like enhancement nodes, right? Like what level are your nodes for your skills? Because that's always going to be active when you're using the skill. Monster Park Medal, your ambition, for example. Ambition also gives IED. So you can put all of the little sources in there. So you can calculate what your functional IED is. And then that functional IED you want to compare to the functional IED that's advised in the grid here. So functionally, you probably want to be at 93, around there.
Okay, so that's the number.
So that's not going to be in your range again. So it's just like damage range. That's not the number there. Sadly, that number is not the number you're looking for. It should be that simple, but it's not. So you got to do extra work to figure out what that number actually is. But yeah, adding a big chunk in your legion and getting one line of your on your weapon will get you very far in terms of that. So I'm pretty sure you won't need the Hoyoung, but if you're like at 91 or something, you might want to throw the Hoyoung in there as well, because we are going to lose the 20% from the event. So you don't want to rely on that one too much.
So you actually want like 95 or 94 right now?
Yeah. But again, for you, that's also to future prep yourself to get into like 97 eventually. And if you're gonna stop at Lotus and Damien and maybe like Lucid parties, then like getting 93 or 94 would be like getting 93 or something would be fine. Functional, like 92, 93, that would be fine. Especially because there's already a lot of pressure on you to get a lot of IED, and it's better to just have to focus on the other stuff that helps you make the team do more damage. I know it kind of feels shitty that you're just supporting, but you bring more damage to the party than anyone else because you allow them to do more damage. You just can't see it as your damage, but it is your damage basically that you're helping them do. You give everyone so much final damage that your total damage contribution, like our Kanna in my party does way less burst than me, but they do way more. They bring way more damage to the party than I do. I have decent, like I give during all the bursts, I give people 20 IED, 20 weapon and magic attack, 30%. 30% boss damage, 50% knockback resistance, and a rank of attack speed during every burst for a minute. And I do like 8 trill burst, but the Kanna brings way more damage to the party by allowing me to amplify that damage that I have with domain and with shells and with the longer binds and everything. Because of that, the Kanna just brings more to the table. So it's just like with your damage range, the number might go down or the number might not be very high, but your damage output is done by a lot of other things that you just kind of have to know that they work that way, which is, yeah, it like psychologically, it doesn't work like that intuitively maybe, but you kind of have to convince your brain like this is actually, this is actually what's going on. This is you almost have to like explain to your brain like why what it's thinking is not right. But it's very normal that your brain falls into that pattern of like, well, I don't see big number, therefore I don't do good thing. Like that's it's very normal to fall into that kind of that trap. But that's also why a game like MapleStory works, right? Because you want to make that number bigger, so you play more.
Yeah.
So that's also what
is
makes
there
it
a big difference in functional and visible IED? In the window there's 82% now.
It's not for you, probably not, because I don't think there's extra IED on like your barriers or on debuffs or on, I don't know if like Night Wish thing does any debuff stuff. Some classes have like a lot of debuffs in their kit, and so you never see that number go up, but you debuff the boss, and then when you hit the boss, you effectively have that different IED rate. So like for Demon Avenger, for example, if I have like 82 or something visually, then my functional is like 96, I think. Yeah, because like 30% debuff, 20% blessing, 30% inherent in the skill, and then and then what other team buffs may come as well.
Okay.
So that can end up making quite a big difference.
Yeah, definitely.
I think for endgame, having like 85 or 86 on a DA is like enough. Yeah. But
Got it
yeah,
easy.
then
On
but
the ID
then
at least.
yeah, but then I'm a damage dealer and I barely deal damage, so that's like the other problem that I have on that character. Okay, so how many link skills did we have there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or something? 2 crit, 2 damage, judgment, ID. Oh, that's 6. And then you're probably yeah, just all the stuff that gives you damage. And then like the resistance link, right? For the harder boss fights that you don't have to
Yeah, for the 8 seconds.
worry about respawn death. I should just look at lists at all the ones that I have so I can just have it in my brain. Let's see, this is what I use. Oh yeah, and then Fury Unleash, your boss damage from Demon Slayer. Hybrid Logic from Xenon, your all stat. Unfair Advantage from Kadena.
That also adds crit damage, isn't it? Or is that for monsters below your level?
It adds damage against weaker opponents, so that just means if the boss is a lower level than you, you get 6% damage. And then if they have abnormal status, which they always have, because Kanna does like 16 of those things, then that also does 6% extra damage.
Okay.
Suction!
And then we're at like 10 or 11, and then you probably want Night's Watch, right, for the knockback resistance. Especially
about the jet link skill, actually? Do you have to like unlink it and link it again to have a different link skill effect, or is it just different daily?
So with yeah, so typically how you do the link skill is you just get the numbers you want and then you lock it in for a while.
Oh, okay.
If you don't lock it in, it resets every day.
So if you unlink it and link it again, it will get a different one if you do it the next day.
I'm not sure. I've always just like rolled a good one and then just lock it for a year. Because I just play only like strength. I went for high strength, decent dex, and high weapon attack, so I can use it on basically all of my characters.
Show me what your jet link skill gives you at the moment.
Sometimes
like
I can.
In the link manager.
Yeah, so it gives 33 strength, 27 dex, 13 intellect, 5 luck, 34 attack, and 5 magic attack. There is though in China MS, where they have the Zen character, which is like their skinned version of the jet, they changed the link skill to basically a boss damage buff. A little bit less than the Demon Slayer one, but like similar. So if we get that as well, then spending a lot of money on it now and locking it for a long time might be not as great of an investment, and then maybe it might be better to just switch it out with the Hayato link instead, because the Hayato link is like the smaller but like guaranteed jet link basically, right? Because it gives you, what is it, 25 weapon and magic attack. Oh no, 15 weapon and magic attack and 25 all stat. So you don't have to re-roll anything, you don't have to spend any money, but it doesn't give you as much, but it always gives that at least. So if you have like one slot left over, then you either do like the 3-stack Explorer Pirate, or what you will need is the Explorer Mage link skill.
Also the IED.
Yeah, because the IED there, and the damage percentage. That will make it an important one. And if you have any slots left over, it's going to be between the Pirate Explorer stacked, the Thief Explorer stacked, the Hayato, or the Cygnus Knight stacked, basically. One of those, whichever one is the best, is basically just going to be a filler link skill for the last slot.
Yeah. And how can you lock the jet link skill? Because you were talking about and spending money on it.
Yeah, so if you go to the cash shop,
yeah,
and then go to, I always have to look for it because it's like difficult to find. It's like Cosmic Dust. Oh, here. Yeah, so if you look for dust, you can find them. So this one just rolls your... This one rolls your stat and tiers it up. And then if you get the right stats in the wrong configuration, you can use the solidifier to rotate them clockwise. So you have to look how much distance is between the stats you want, and then if you rotate them, you know, it looks like a hexagon, right? You've used it before, right? The skill?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you get the peaks with the appropriate distance, but not in the right spot, you can still rotate it, which is a lot cheaper, right? Because it's only the cost of like 4 cubes. So the chance, you know, if you roll really high magic attack and intellect and you really want that, in your case though, it's going to be really tricky because if you want to min-max it on a Kanna, it's going to be horrible for your hero or Demon Slayer and vice versa. So that's also why I think it might be better for you to just either use the Hayato or the Pirate Link stacked and not worry too much about the jet now, especially since we don't really know if the jet is going to change. So if you do end up with something nice and you want to keep it, then you can use the Stellar Cosmic Dust Solidifier, this one for 15 mil, and that'll lock it for 30 days per one of these that you use. And then you can use as many of these as you want up until a max of 365 days. You can extend it at any point when there's at least 30 days that you can add. And if you let it all the way run out back to 0, then it'll re-roll again automatically.
Okay. Alright. Sounds good.
Yeah, other than that, it's going to be a lot of nodes and restarting all of your symbol dailies and everything on the new character. That's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the main... okay, so to recap. Reflame and recube weapon. Flame aim for tier 6 magic attack and tier... Well, just whatever tier of boss damage. Preferably 4 or higher, of course. But if you get like a 3, that's fine too. Yes. Then list of all the other items and what their flames are, with probably the focus on your cup, your hat, and your shoe. Potential wise, the gloves go for critical damage and a line of intellect. Or 2 lines of critical damage, of course. If you get that, then fuck the intellect. If you get lucky there, then obviously don't re-roll out of that. All the other stuff was decent. If there's a cube event, you could consider cubing your heart, because heart has the lowest amount of junk lines in the game, so it's the easiest item to get like 27% on, for example.
Okay.
That's something to keep in mind. And
should
then,
I use the Tenebrous ring when bossing because it has 27% in that thing now?
Yes, because that one also has a lot of HP and MP on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll probably just stay your bossing ring for forever on this character. Because the amount, I think you need like 18 or even 19 stars on like Kanna Treasure before that gets better, for example.
Oh, it's 30 in actually.
Yeah, it's 30. Yeah, it's a 9% all set. Yeah, that's definitely your bossing ring for sure. Okay. So one thing you can do though is if you log out, is equip your Star Force items, and that will help you get more Legion raid power as well.
Yeah.
Oh. So instead of doing the setup you did with the Legion, having the 2 setups there, instead min-maxing a little bit like that. If you've already invested the money in a Star Force, that can be a way of recouping a little bit of the cost there. Yeah, and then it's going to be about working on, so redoing, upgrading the Legion, getting your 2 setups, 1 intellect setup, 1 strength setup, prioritizing your characters to level, getting nodes, getting your experience nodes to level up your domain, and I'll probably focus everything on just leveling your domain as much as possible so you can peak in your burst, getting your blue spirit circle. Possibly getting the Sengoku Force in there, but it's only after the new Storm Growth Potion, the Typhoon Growth Potion. Yeah, then and then getting the good setups for Link skills. And then in your setup for your Legion, the main thing there is going to be so count for your Link skills for sure to be in on your Kanna. and then account for having enough critical rate to compensate for the loss of the skill, and then after that, focus on critical damage and ignore defense. And if you have any left, go into boss damage. And yeah, that's gonna be the main thing. I guess if you keep doing dailies on here, you'll still keep growing stronger because of your symbols going up, and then the bosses will get easier and easier as well. Because yeah, the extra main stat you get from symbols is like a silent power creep that just keeps going and going.
Yeah. So I'm at 790 now, I think.
Suction.
Yeah. So that yeah, and then so after all of that, it's going to be redoing your hyper stats, getting
yeah, with a crit damage as well.
Yeah, so getting as little crit rate and as little IED you need. Oh yeah, so and calculating like your IED, like how much you would end up with. Try to aim for like 92, 93 functional, and then take as little IED and as little critical rate as you need to get to that point, and then distribute your point, and then probably get like 5 in mana, right, for bossing, because that makes it a bit easier. And then distribute all your other points between critical damage, and boss damage. You can probably get all 3 of those up to level 8. And then from there on, try to go from 8 to 10. And then probably prioritize your damage and your boss damage over the other 2, mainly because of, the summons not doing crit damage. Yeah, but I think you'll end up with something like level 10 boss damage, level 9 damage, 10 IED, 8 crit damage, probably 8 or 9 crit rate probably, and then 5 mana is like just to do some brain math. I think that's probably what you'll roughly end up with, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you're like Kanna maining, what you do is you circulate your invulnerability for 20% crit rate there, and then that takes like the load off of everything, and then you can even go maybe with 1 link skill less and have more damage in there, but that's not going to be something that's going to be very useful for you. It's going to be way too expensive for how little gain that gives you overall for your account.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're ever, if Kanna ever gets like reworked and becomes even stronger so that even you can enjoy it, then that will be something to look at that point.
Well, I think they will be reworked to become less powerful.
I hope so.
Earlier than becoming more powerful.
Yeah, I hope so. One can only dream. Not because I hate Kanna, but because I hate imbalance in the game, and I think it's inherently bad for the game.
Yeah. If you look at the stats as well, how many people are playing at Kanna, but also because of the boosting of monsters, of course.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just objectively the better choice. You can't really fault people for that.
Yeah.
It's so easy to play. It's so strong. It levels so fast.
And if you don't play it, you need 2 computers to.
You don't need, but it's so much. Yeah, it's so much better.
10 or 15 Fury totems you can buy monthly.
Do you have 2, right?
Sorry?
Do you have 2 computers?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay.
I have 3 actually.
Yeah.
For my HS Mu on
Nice.
Training Muse.
I don't know why, but I just assumed it because you like never brought it up. I just assumed that you had all of that like covered already for the new character.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything? Let's see. I got the list. Flame Score, Transfer Hammer, IED, Invulnerability, Transposing. Is there anything for the new character that you're like still wondering about, like general? Because you know how to get up to this point now. It's going to be a little bit different on a new character, of course, right? No access to Gollux that quickly, so it's either going to be. Well, what you could do, for example, with this character very well is if you get all of this stuff in order and you get to the point where you can do Helix with this guy, which I think higher level domain and stuff like that will also allow you to do. What you could start doing there is like exchanging carries for your other character to get maybe get a little bit faster on the Gollux, for example.
Yeah, to get the superior equips on that.
Yeah, maybe if you find someone else who's doing the same thing as you, where they're like switching mains or they don't really need the drops on another character, switching and boosting coins on the other character might be something that can help your new character out a lot. Even then, though, it's going to take a long time to get to like a full set superior, but it'll definitely speed up the process.
Definitely, yeah. That's great advice.
That's something to think about. Yeah, the other thing is just saving up a lot of nodes, and especially in the beginning, participating in the events where you can buy nodes and symbols. That's gonna speed up your progress a lot in the beginning. It's a lot of free levels for a lot of free stat, and just boost nodes are pretty rare in the beginning, even with some drop rate. Especially now that the familiars are gone and we don't have that extra drop rate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. And how much mesos should I like spare for the new main? I have 6 bill right now. Just to get a start.
That's gonna depend so hard on if we get a DMT or not. I would bank on like a DMT for July, hopefully, because they skipped the last one. I would hope that they're not gonna skip another one. Yeah, something like 10 to 12 or something will get you pretty far. We'll pretty much get all your stuff legendary and hopefully 2 lines on everything. And then prioritize, of course, your like weapon secondary and your emblem. And then go from there on all the other stuff, accessories, and accessories first, and then all the armors, and then your CRA stuff. Don't hesitate to keep your CRA stuff unique a little bit longer than everything else, because Legendary adds a lot of junk lines. So it's like easier to get 16% on 16?
Never knew that.
15. Yeah, there's a lot of... Well, they're junk lines for most people. For some classes, they add the lines that you actually need, like cooldown skip and everything. On some hats is pretty necessary, but hats add a lot of junk lines. And the average cost of rolling the same potential on a hat compared to like a pendant is like, I think, over double, but it's like close to double, I think. So it'll seem like, oh, I'm just going for 2-line intellect on everything, but you're actually... Yeah. It'll probably be cheaper to get 3-line intellect on
a unique hat than on a legendary hat.
Yeah, or even on like on a regular.
Cubes for it, so you're sure you won't get the legendary line.
Yeah, you'll just use the Master Craftsman you get from bossing, and just use those to reroll like 2-line stat. Because I can think if you check exclamation mark cubing, it has like estimated costs here. Let's see, if you go for stat, red cubes, 30% plus on red cubes. So average cost of 6.4 bill during sale. And if you look at your hat stat, it's 12.7. See, it's actually exactly double. Yeah, and then for 33% is like 148. To get like a 12-12, if you see anyone with like 12-12-9 on a hat, you could be like, oh, that's so nice, that's double prime. No, that's not nice. That's like 12 times the cost of 30%, right? Because there's so many junk lines. And of course, yeah, like with black cubes, it's quite a lot cheaper, you see, right? Like on average 22 bill less.
Oh yeah. But because they have a higher chance of rolling.
Double prime, yeah. So for red cubes, it's 100%, 10%, 1%, and for black cubes, it's 100%, 20%, 2% for primes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, is there any other general stuff that you're wondering about, or something you're still unsure about?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered everything.
I think so too.
Thank you for the advice.
Yes, thank you for the donation. Yes, I'm glad to help. And best of luck. Sure. I hope you can figure out if you want to do the Demon Slayer or the hero. But yeah, definitely get both to like 210 and like taste the 5th job a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm just prepping for the summer, checking out the hero, and then going from there, choosing which one I want to play.
Yeah, the main thing is just going to be that the Demon Slayer mobbing is going to be easier, and the bursts, the bossing is going to be not as extreme, but you'll be able to burst fully on every single bind. And then for hero, it's going to be, you're going to burst harder, but only one every other bind. And the mobbing is going to be a bit tougher. So it's going to be like, what balance do you prefer, basically?
Yeah. Okay. And is it ping reliant as well? So
Demon Slayer a little bit, because you do want to spam like your main attack during some of your bursts, because it triggers like extra slashes that come out that deal a lot of damage. So you do have to spam your basic attack, which not everyone likes, like slamming a button over and over and over again. Whereas for the hero, it's more no-brain because you can just hold down your basic attack. And when you're in instinctual combo, at least for the instinctual combo, right, the once every other burst, you don't even have to move to keep doing damage. It just keeps going. Like for hard Lucid part 3 or something, you just stand there and just hold, like, yeah, you do your three skill debuff, and then you just hold down one skill and you're good. So it's much simpler in that
hero
regard.
would be better. Like if you have high ping.
Yeah, for high ping, it would be easier to play, and yeah, it would be better, yeah.
Because I would probably have the same ping that you have.
I think Netherlands ping is a little bit better than mine, but it's roughly similar, yeah. Because in general, your connection, I think a lot of the connections that enter Europe, I think enter through, is it like Rotterdam or Amsterdam or something?
Okay.
A lot of the servers are there as well. So in general, the ping is a bit better, but only by like, well, I say only by like 20, which is, if you have 40 ping, that's a lot. But if you have like 200, 20 ping isn't that much of a difference. Like, yeah. If you go down from 210 to 190, it's not like, oh wow, it's so much clearer now. No, it's pretty much the same.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks for your time and the advice as well.
Yes, thank you.
Help
And best of luck.
Thank you. Good luck streaming.
Thank
I'll
you.
be watching.
All right.
Have a nice day.
Yes, have a nice day. See ya.
Bye.
All right, that was a good one. Good on time. I felt more relaxed, like we weren't going too long because I changed the numbers and everything. Yes. Happy with that one. Yes, and I'm also happy with this one in particular because it's very different. There's like some basic stuff, some stuff that we talk about with a lot of people, but it's like, okay, I have this character, I want to push it a little bit further than where it is, but not too much because I want to focus on transitioning to another character. And that's very much like, even like all of the general guides that I have, you can't really find that in the guide. Like, how far do you really push that? That's really more like a judgment call, and you need like general guidance on that. So I also feel like I could add a lot of value there with my advice and not just be like, oh, well, basically like the guide says this, so your number is lower here, so follow this number, right? Because then it almost feels like I'm stealing money from people where they could basically just get it from the guide. This one is way more personal, one-on-one, situational, that I feel like needed the guidance. So that was a pretty specific one, therefore, maybe not as palatable to a lot of people, but I think very useful for Louis in particular.